Mythistorem, George Sefaris. One. The angel. 3 years. We waited for him, attention riveted. Closely scanning the pines, the shores, the stars. One with the blade of the plow, we were searching to find once more the first seed. So that the age-old drama could begin again. We returned to our homes broken, limbs incapable, mouths cracked. By the taste of rust and brine, when we woke, we traveled towards the north, strangers, plunged into the mist by the immaculate wings of swans that wounded us. Winter nights, the strong wind from the east maddened us. In the summers, we were lost in the agony of days that couldn't die. We brought back these carved reliefs of a humble art. 2. Still one more well inside a cave. It used to be easy for us to draw up idols and ornaments to please those friends who still remain loyal to us. The ropes have broken, only the grooves on the well's lips remind us of our past happiness. Fingers on the rim, as the poet put it. The fingers feel the coolness of the stone a little, then the body's fever prevails over it. And the cave stakes its soul and loses it, every moment full of silence. Without a drop of water. 3. Remember the baths where you were murdered. I woke with this marble head in my hands. It exhausts my elbows, and I don't know where to put it down. It was falling into the dream. I was coming out of the dream. So our life became one, and it will be very difficult for it to separate again. I look at the eyes, neither open nor closed. I speak to the mouth, which keeps trying to speak. I which have broken through the skin. That's all I'm able to do. My hands disappear and come towards me mutilated. 4. Argonauts. And a soul, if it is to know itself, must look into its own soul, the stranger and enemy. We've seen him in the mirror. They were good, the companions. They didn't complain about the work or the thirst or the frost. They had the bearing of the trees and waves that accept the wind and the rain, accept the night and the sun, without changing in the midst of change. Fine, whole days. They sweated at the oars with lowered eyes, breathing in rhythm. And their blood reddened a submissive skin. Sometimes they sang with lowered eyes. We were passing the deserted islands with the Barbary figs, in the west beyond the Cape of Dogs that bark. If it is to know itself, they said, it must look into its own soul. They said, and the oars struck the sea's gold in the sunset. We went past many capes, many islands, the seas leading to another sea. Gulls and seals, sometimes disconsolate women wept, lamenting their lost children, and other frantics saw Alexander the Great. And glories buried in the depths of Asia, we moored on shores, the birds singing, full of night scents, with waters that left on the hands the memory of a great happiness. But the voyages did not end. Their souls became one with the oars and the oarlocks, with the solemn face of the prow, with the rudder's wake and the water that shattered their image. The companions died one by one. With lowered eyes, their oars mark the place where they sleep on the shore. No one remembers them. Justice. Five. We didn't know them deep down. It was hope that said we'd know them. Lost behind the ocean forever since early childhood. We saw them perhaps twice, and they took their ships, cargoes of coal, cargoes of grain, and our friends lost beyond the ocean forever. Dawn finds us beside the tired lamp, drawing on paper, awkwardly, painfully, ships, mermaids, or seashells. At dusk, we go down to the river, the way to the sea, and we spend the nights in the cellars that smell of tar. Our friends have left us. Perhaps we never saw them. Perhaps we met them when we sleep. Still brought us close to the breathing waves. Perhaps we search for them because we search for other life beyond the statues. The garden with its fountains in the rain, and you will see from behind the clouded glass of the low window. Your room will be lit only by the flames from the fireplace, and sometimes the distant lightning will reveal the wrinkles on your forehead, my old friend. The garden with its fountains, that in your hands was a rhythm of the other life beyond the broken. Statues and tragic columns in a dance among the oleanders near the new quarries. Misty glass will have to cut it off your life. You won't breathe. Earth and the sap of the trees will spring from your memory to strike this window struck by rain from the outside world. Seven. South wind. Westward, the sea merges with the mountain range. From the left, the south wind blows and drives us mad. The kind of wind that strips bone from their flesh, our house among pines. Large windows, large tables. For writing you the letters we've been writing so many months now, dropping them into the space between us in order to fill it up. Star of dawn, when you lowered your eyes, our hours were sweeter than oil, on a wound more joyful than cold water, to a palate more peaceful than swan's wings. You held our life in the palm of your hand. After the bitter bread of exile, at night, if we remain in front of the white wall, your voice approaches us like the hope of fire, and again this wind hones a razor against our nerves. Each of us writes you the same thing, and each falls silent in another's presence. Watching each of us the same world separately, the light and darkness of the mountain range, and you, who will lift the sorrow from our hearts. Yesterday evening, a heavy rain, and again today, the covered sky burdens us, our thoughts like the pine needles of yesterday's downpour. Bunched up and useless in front of our doorway, would build a collapsing tower among these decimated villages. On this promontory open to the south wind, with the mountain range in front of us hiding you, who will appraise for us the sentence to oblivion? Who will accept our offering at this close of autumn? 8. What are they after, our souls traveling on the decks of the decayed ships, crowded with the sallow women and crying babies? unable to forget themselves either with the flying fish or with the stars that the masts point out to their tips, graded by the gramophone records, committed to non-existent pilgrimages, unwillingly, unmurmured, broken thoughts from foreign languages. What are they after our souls traveling, or rotten brine-soaked timbers from harbor to harbor, shifting broken stones, breathing in the pine's coolness with greater difficulty each day, swimming in the waters of this sea and of that sea without the sense of touch, without men, in a country that is no longer ours nor yours. We knew that the islands were beautiful, somewhere round about here where we grope, slightly lower down or slightly higher up. A tiny space. 9. The harbor is old. I can't wait any longer for the friend who left for the island with the pine trees, for the friend who left for the island with the plane trees, for the friend who left for the open sea. I stroke the rusted cannons, I stroke the oars, so that my body may revive and decide. The sails give off only the smell of salt from the other storm. If I choose to remain alone, what I longed for was solitude, not this kind of waiting. My soul shattered on the horizon, these lines, these colors, this silence. The night's stars take me back to Odysseus, to his anticipation of the dead among the asphodels. When we moored here, we hoped to find among the asphodels the gorge that knew the wounded Adonis. 10. Our country is closed in, all mountains. That day and night have the low sky as their roof. We have no rivers, we have no wells, we have no springs, only a few cisterns, and these empty, that echo, and that we worship. A stagnant hollow, the same as our loneliness, the same as our love, the same as our bodies. We find it strange that once we were able to build our houses, huts, and sheepfolds. And our marriages, the cool coronals and the fingers, become enigmas inexplicable to our soul. How were our children born? How did we grow strong? Our country is closed in, the two black simple glades. Close it in when we go down to the harbors by Sunday to breathe freely. We see, lit in the sunset. The broken planks from voyages that never ended, bodies that no longer knew how to love. 11. Sometimes your blood froze like the moon. In the limitless night, your blood spread its white wings over the black rocks, the shapes of the trees and houses with a little light from our childhood years. 12. Bottle in the sea. 3 rocks, a few burnt pines, and a lone chapel, and farther above the same landscape repeated starts again. 3 rocks in the shape of a gateway rested. A few burnt pines, black and yellow, and a square hut burnt in whitewash, and still farther above, many times over, the same landscape recurs, level after level, to the horizon, to the twilit sky. Here we moored the ship, to splice the broken oars, to drink water and to sleep. The sea that embittered us is deep and unexplored and enfolds a boundless calm. Here among the pebbles we found a coin and threw dice for it. The youngest won it and disappeared. We put it to sea with our broken oars. 13. Dolphin banners and the sound of cannons, the sea once so bitter to your soul, bore the many-colored and glittering ships. It swayed, rolled, and tossed them, all blue and white wings, once so bitter to your soul, now full of colors in the sun. White sails in sunlight and wet oars struck with a rhythm of drums on stilled waves. Your eyes watching would be beautiful, your arms reaching out would glow, your lips would come alive as they used to at such a miracle that what you were looking for in front of ashes or in the rain, in the fog, in the wind. Even when the lights were growing dim and when the city was sinking and on the stone pavement, the Nazarene showed you his heart. What were you looking for? Why don't you come? What were you looking for? 14. 3 red pigeons in the light inscribing our fate in the light with colors and gestures of people we once loved. 15. Sleep wrapped you in green leaves like a tree. You breathed like a tree in quiet light. In the limpid spring, I looked at your face, eyelids closed, eyelashes brushing the water. In the soft grass, my fingers found your fingers. I held your pulse a moment and felt elsewhere your heart's pain. Under the plane tree, near the water, among laurel, sleep moved you and scattered you around me, near me, without my being able to touch the whole of you. One as you were with your silence, seeing your shadow grow and diminish, lose itself in the other shadows in the other world that you let go yet hold you back. The life they gave us to live, we lived. Pity those who wait with such patience, lost in the black laurel under the heavy plane trees, and those alone who speak to cisterns and wells and drown in the voices' circles. Pity the companion who shared our privation and our sweat and plunged into the sun like a crow beyond the ruins without hope of enjoying our reward. Give us outside sleep serenity. 16. The name is Orestes. Who watched me when in the chariot I raised my hand glorious and they roared triumphantly? The froth of the horses strike me. When will the horses tire? The axle creaks, the axle burns. When will the axle burst into flame? When will the reins break? When will the hooves tread flush on the ground, on the soft grass among the poppies? Where in the spring you picked a daisy, they were lovely, your eyes, but you didn't know where to look. Nor did I know where to look. Without a country, I who go on struggling here, how many times around, and I feel my knees give way over the axle, over the wheels, over the wild track. Knees buckle easily when the gods so will it. No one can escape. What use is strength? You can't escape the sea that cradled you, and you search for this time of trial, with the horses panting, with the reeds that used to sing in autumn in the Lydian mode. The sea you cannot find no matter how you run, no matter how you circle past the blackboard immunities. Unforgiven. 17. Estionics. Now that you are leaving, take the boy with you as well, the boy who saw the light under the plane tree. One day, when trumpets resounded and weapons shone and the sweating horses bent to the trough to touch with wet nostrils the green surface, the water, the olive trees with the wrinkles of our fathers, the rocks with the wisdom of our fathers, and our brother's blood alive on the earth. Were a vital joy, a rich pattern, or the souls who knew their prayer. Now that you are leaving, now that the day of payment dawns, now that no one knows who he will kill and how he will die. Take with you the boy who saw the light under the leaves of the plane tree, and teach him to study the trees. 18. I regret having let a broad river slip through my fingers without drinking a single drop. Now I'm sinking into the stone, a small pine tree in the red soil. Is all the company I have. Whatever I loved vanished with the houses that were new last summer and crumbled in the winds of autumn. 19. Even if the wind blows, it doesn't cool us, and the shade is meager under the cypress trees, and all around slopes ascending to the mountains. They're a burden for us, the friends who no longer know how to die. 20. In my breast, the wound opens again. When the stars descend and become kin to my body, when silence falls under the footsteps of men, these stones sinking into time, how far will they drag me with them? The sea, who will be able to drain it dry? I see the hands beckon each dawn to the vulture, and the hawk, bound as I am to the rock. Suffering has made mine. I see the trees breathing the black serenity of the dead, and then the smile so static of the statues. 21. We who set out on this pilgrimage looked at the broken statues, became distracted, and said that life is not so easily lost, that death has unexplored paths and its own particular justice. That while we still upright on our feet are dying, affiliated in stone, united in hardness and weakness, the ancient dead have escaped the circle and risen again, and smile in a strange silence. 22. So very much having passed before our eyes that even our eyes saw nothing but beyond, and behind was memory, like the white sheet one night in an enclosure, where we saw the strange visions even stranger than you pass by and vanish into the motionless foliage of a pepper tree. Having known this fate of ours so well, wandering among broken stones, 3,000 or 6,000 years, searching in collapsed buildings that might have been our home, trying to remember dates and heroic deeds, will we be able? Having been bound and scattered, having struggled, as they said, with non-existent difficulties, lost, then finding again a road full of blind regiments, sinking in marshes and in the lake of Marathon. Will we be able to die as we should? 23. A little farther, we will see the almond trees blossoming, the marble gleaming in the sun, the sea breaking into waves. A little farther, let us rise a little farther, a little higher. 24. Here and the works of the sea, the works of love, those who will someday live here where we end. Blood happened to darken in the memory and overflow. Let them not forget us, the weak souls among the asphodels. Let them turn the heads of the victims towards Erebus. We who had nothing will school them in serenity. December 1933 to December 1934. George Sefaris, mythistorem.